When the movie was rolled out on Twitter, it was immediately appended with a warning that it was hate speech and it was throttled. It was not allowed to trend. It was only being shown to people that were registered followers of the Daily Wire account. It couldn't go to people outside of that. By definition, it could not go viral. It was high drama. Matt Walsh and other leaders of the Daily Wire, and Jordan Peterson was down at their head office too. They were tweeting about this. They weren't abandoning hope that Elon Musk would save things. They were saying, what's going on? This is exactly the opposite about what Elon Musk said. And all the free speech nicks on Twitter in unison said, hey, Elon Musk, this is the opposite of what you wanted. You just dropped $44 billion on Twitter. Why are you letting it be the same? Elon Musk looked into it. You could see him operating in real time. And by the end of the day, mere hours later, in a very dramatic day, all the throttling was removed from the tweet. It was allowed to go viral, not just viral, but super viral. And in fact, at the end of the day, Elon Musk himself weighed in saying that every parent should watch it. So it went from something that was being banned, throttled, defamed as hate speech, to one of the most viral tweets of all time that the proprietor of Twitter himself said everyone should watch. There were a couple of staff exits over this kerfuffle, but I don't think Elon Musk cares much about that. Last I checked, more than 150 million views of that movie. And think about that. That would be more views than almost any box office smash of the year. Of course, it's a global number, but just a staggering success. One of the most watched films in the world, and I think it would have been successful in any event. But the fact that they targeted for censorship and they fought and won, well, that's what they call the Streisand effect, if you know that old story. Someone was taking photos of beachfront properties in Malibu and in passing captured Barbra Streisand's house. No one knew it. No one was clicking on it. But when she took the photographer to court, all of a sudden everyone wanted to see what all the fuss about. And thousands of people watched the photo, whereas I think the number was only 3 who had looked at it before. That's called the Streisand effect. And I think that's exactly what happened here. I have no doubt that had Twitter allowed it to go viral in the first place, it would have had 5 million, maybe 10 million views, no doubt about it. Maybe it would have had 20 million views, like our viral video of the Pfizer CEO when Avi Amini and I were walking with him in Switzerland. But to get almost 10 times that number is just so stunning and an enormous success to the Daily Wire and for free speech. Such an important battle fought and won. Well, not everyone is impressed. You know, there's a voluntary European censorship group. Well, of course, it's voluntary. You'd better volunteer for it or else. Well, Twitter announced that it's going to be leaving. At least that's what this report says. And here's the European Union Commissioner, Vera Jourova, said Twitter's compliance with the new Digital Services Act, entering force on August 25th, will be scrutinized vigorously and earnestly.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this press corner with Vice President Vera Jourova.
We believe this is a mistake of Twitter. Twitter has chosen the hard way. They chose confrontation. This was noticed very much in the Commission, and I know the code is voluntary, but make no mistake, by leaving the code, Twitter has attracted a lot of attention, and its actions and compliance with EU law will be scrutinized vigorously and urgently.
Now, Vera is a Czech bureaucrat, and she was elected by no one to the European Union. She grew up under communist censorship, but now she does it for the EU, not the USSR. Same difference, though. But at least the USSR didn't claim to be able to censor American media companies. Very interesting to me. Here's a story in Barron's. Twitter chose confrontation on EU disinformation code. Twitter chose confrontation by exiting a voluntary EU disinformation code of practice that lays ground rules for an incoming European law on digital services, a European Union commissioner said Monday. We believe this is a mistake of Twitter. Twitter has chosen the hard way. They chose confrontation, Commissioner Vera Jourova told journalists. She said Twitter's compliance with the new Digital Services Act, entering force on August 25th, will be scrutinized vigorously and urgently. The European Commission announced May 27th that Twitter had decided to leave the code of practice, to which other major online platforms such as Google, Microsoft, and TikTok continue to adhere. The voluntary pact, which was launched in 2018 and strengthened last year with input from industry players, contains over 36 pledges, such as better cooperation with fact-checkers and not promoting actors that distribute disinformation. It serves as a test feeder to the DSA, which will impose legal obligations on big platforms and impose penalties that could go up to 6% of a company's global revenues in case of violation. Since Elon Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion in October, it has cut more than 80% of the workforce and got rid of many moderators who vetted content for disinformation and harmful messages. Let me read a little bit more. Jourova said, I can't predict what conclusions the Commission might make about Twitter's possible distribution of disinformation once the DSA comes into force, but she said that signatories in the Code of Practice would have an easier situation because they would already have cleared the burden of proof. There is an interplay between the Code of Practice, which is a voluntary agreement, and the Digital Services Act, which is enforceable. In other words, we're going to go a lot hard on you. There's no rule of law here. This is Europe. I would like to give Twitter the chance to defend the right to make business in Europe without any sanction, she said. That's what she thinks is in question, not the right of European people to speak on Twitter or listen on Twitter. She's not interested in those rights, just her right to stop Twitter. So they're in trouble. I wonder what they make of the Daily Wire's movie. Here's the Wall Street Journal story on the war against Twitter. Twitter to face stress tests this month, top EU tech regulator says during Silicon Valley tour. EU team will review social media platforms' content moderation to measure compliance with new law. So this is just another take on the same story. The first was from the Association France Presse, and this is from the Wall Street Journal. European Union regulators plan to subject Twitter to a stress test to determine how well it complies with Europe's new digital content law, a top EU tech regulator said, ramping up the blog's preparations for enforcing the West's most far-reaching digital content law. Hopefully it will just apply to Europe, like right now, Turkey or Pakistan have extreme censorship rules, and Twitter has to comply to survive in those countries. But this rule seems to imply that they would block out Twitter in all of Europe, and they would claim the right to fine Twitter for revenues it makes around the world. That was an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show. I'm Ezra Levant. Every weekday, I do a monologue about the topic of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest, either in studio or via Skype. And then I read your mail, whether it's fan mail or hate mail, which is sometimes even more interesting. This is on our premium service, though, called Rebel News Plus. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. It's $8 a month or less if you buy a whole year in advance. You get my show every weeknight, plus Sheila Gunn Reid's show every week. It's called The Gun Show. It's pretty amazing. You know, we rely on you because we do not take a dime from the government. In Canada, that makes us almost unique. So please help us out and help yourself to some great journalism at rebelnewsplus.com.